One of the things every year that Senator Jeff Flake puts together is a Wastebook. Last year it was called The Farce Awakens. This year he's going with the theme of Pokemon. It's called PORKémon Go. And it is a little lighthearted look, but when you look at some of the numbers, it's not so funny. So what we've done is asked the senator to join us again. He's been kind enough to do so. Senator Flake, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Mike.
I'm looking at some of the numbers from your testimony and from what you had to say in this Wastebook. Before we get to any of the numbers, if people want to see details of this, can they find it on your website?
They can. Just go to jeffflake.gov and or flake.gov.
Okay.
Yeah, and or just type Jeff Flake into a browser and it'll come up my official office, and you can get it there. It's a great document, and it'll frankly make you sick though with all the money that's being wasted.
Not just that it's the biggest number on the page I'm looking at, but explain $74 million that allows taxpayer-backed loans to be repaid with peanuts.
You know, that one's really awful. We subsidize peanut farming like we subsidize a lot of farming. But peanut farmers, we say, here's a loan, and at the end of the year, if you can't sell your peanuts, if the market isn't there, then the government will buy them back at above market prices. And so you can, rather than just try to sell your peanuts, you just give them to the government. And now we have warehouses all over the country storing peanuts, and we're paying tens of millions of dollars, and CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, estimates that within a few years we could spend $1 billion just storing excess peanuts. So you can pay, instead of paying off a loan, you just pay in peanuts. And the puns are endless.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to try that. I've got some credit card debt. I'm going to see if they'll take peanuts in exchange. That's incredible. So
it gets even worse. This is the USDA, or Department of Agriculture, that administers this program. And a while ago, they thought, we got to get rid of some of these peanuts. And so they thought, well, Haiti, after the earthquake, they could use peanuts. The problem is USAID, another government agency, are trying to teach Haitian farmers to grow peanuts. And so when they dumped a lot of American peanuts there, it depressed that market and ruined that program.
Oh, my gosh.
And so you have U.S. agencies working cross purposes. And so, anyway, it's a bad one. We have legislation that we've introduced that will simply say that you can't repay your loans in peanuts. That'll start the process.
Who does the research for you? I mean, how long does it take to accumulate this? Because if the data is there in the different departments of the government for this kind of waste, why are they not eliminating it themselves? And how does your staff, how do they find this information?
We have good staff who pile through, and this is part of our oversight role in Congress. And hopefully with the new administration, we can move to actually pass legislation that will require these agencies to document more easily, because sometimes this is tough to find. These agencies bury it deep, and some of these grant programs, you don't know how much they're spending. And on what items. So that's what we're trying to get, is a lot more transparency so taxpayers can see it easier. And usually when taxpayers do, then they demand change. But that's just one of 50 that we outline in this book. Another one, for example, $80 million for a launching pad, a rocket launch pad in Alaska that DOD doesn't even use anymore. It's not capable of launching the kind of rockets that we launch, yet still we spend $80 million just to keep it operating, because it was once an earmark by a powerful member that is just perpetuated.
So very quickly, $1.7 million, comedy club starring holograms of dead comedians, $1.5 million to test the endurance of fish on a treadmill, $5 million to study the partying habits of fraternities and sororities. Right. Marley, our board op, wants to do that for free. He'll help you with that study for nothing.
That last one, I mean, we noted a similar one last year, but we paid $5 million, National Science Foundation, National Institutes of Health, to study the partying habits of fraternities and sororities. And we found that, yes, they drink more than other college students, and yes, they sleep in longer. One conclusion they drew is that maybe those Greek fraternities recognize their sleep needs more than others. But another Another scientist concluded, no, maybe they're just sleeping it off.
Yeah, maybe it's a hangover.
I think it's probably the latter. But why in the world we're spending federal taxpayer dollars to study that, particularly with other priorities, I don't know.
$3.5 million to learn why people are afraid of going to the dentist.
Right. They concluded it's probably because of the prospect of pain.
Oh.
So,
all right, one more. You got to explain this one to me. $3.4 million for hamster cage fights?
Yeah.
Come on.
Last year we studied shrimp fighting. I think Duke University got a lot of money to look at who would win among a particular type of Panamanian shrimp. But we've got hamsters as well. And here's the interesting thing. I found common cause with PETA and some of the animal rights groups who don't like this either. But
hamster MMA.
Yeah. So anyway, tax dollars shouldn't be spent that way watching hamsters fight.
Have you made any headway with putting this book out every year with your colleagues? Is there a movement now in Congress with this new president coming in? Is there any movement in Congress? You don't have to hurt anybody's programs where, we're helping people in any way. We'd call them welfare programs or anything else. If you cut this waste out, how much money could we save? And is there any headway being made in Congress to cut some of this out?
Well, that's a good question. Years ago, myself in the House and Senator McCain, Senator Coburn, Senator DeMint in the Senate really went after earmarks. And a lot of these programs that we're talking about now, like the space launch thing, got their start from congressional earmarks. Now, ever since we got rid of earmarking, it's when members of Congress get specific spending items for their home district or state. The appropriators, the big spenders, have wanted earmarks back. Well, we released this report just this week, and on the same day we released the report, it got quite a bit of attention. I went to the Senate Republican Conference and offered an amendment to extend the earmark moratorium for another year because there were efforts to get rid of it, to let it lapse, and to bring earmarks back. And it passed. And so for another year at least, another Congress, 2 years, we'll be without earmarks. So it is making a difference.
Good.
And then part of the biggest thing is a lot of these agencies come back to the federal government or to the Congress and say, we're starved. We're on, we haven't been given increases like we used to be, and we have nowhere else to cut. There's no fat to cut. And to be able to pull Wastebook out and say, all right, if you have no waste to cut, why are you spending money to watch hamsters fight?
Yeah.
Then that's pretty effective.
That is very effective. Well, Senator, we always appreciate the time. Again, for anybody who wants to take a look at the Wastebook put together by Senator Flake's staff, you can go to the website. It's flake.senate.gov, and it's right there on the front page. And as always, we appreciate you. It is a lighthearted look at some of this, but it's a very serious issue, and we appreciate you shedding light on it.
Hey, thank you much, Mike.